Potter.
What if HBO's new Harry Potter series is not really trying to recreate the feeling of the old movies at all, but trying to reclaim the feeling of opening the books for the first time? Because that is the question sitting underneath this first teaser, and honestly, that is why this thing matters so much. The first official teaser for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone finally gives us our real look at HBO's return to Hogwarts. And the biggest surprise is not just that it looks familiar. It is that it looks familiar in a way that feels deliberately book-first rather than movie-dependent. Yes, the corridor shots, the sorting iconography, Platform 9 3/4, Hagrid, McGonagall, Snape, Quidditch, and the rival beats all trigger the obvious memory response. Of course they do. This is Harry Potter. But what stands out to me is that the teaser feels less interested in worshipping the Chris Columbus film frame by frame, and more interested in rebuilding the first year experience with a little more room to breathe. That is the right instinct. Because if HBO was just making a high-budget echo of the 2001 movie, this whole project would feel doomed from the start. The only real argument for doing a Harry Potter TV adaptation this soon is depth. More time, more texture, more room for the smaller beats that the films either compressed or skipped. The teaser already hints at that by showing moments that were not central in the first movie adaptation, including a more detailed look at Harry's Muggle school life before Hogwarts and small seasonal beats like a snowball fight and Hagrid making snow angels. Those details may sound minor, but they tell me exactly what kind of adaptation HBO wants you to think this is. Not broader, but fuller, and that matters because this is not just another reboot. It is a structural gamble. HBO has now confirmed that the first season, officially titled Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, will premiere on December 25, 2026, with 8 episodes. That is a major shift from the earlier assumption that the series would not arrive until 2027. It also immediately tells us how Warner Bros. Discovery is positioning this thing. Christmas Day is not a casual release slot. It is a statement. It says this is a franchise centerpiece, a holiday event, and the kind of drop they want families, longtime fans, and curious skeptics all talking about at the same time. And yes, the title matters to because for American audiences, there is always going to be some confusion around Philosopher's Stone versus Sorcerer's Stone. The original US publishing decision changed the title to Sorcerer's Stone out of fear that Philosopher would feel too old-fashioned or intellectually distant to younger American readers. And the movie followed that localization choice in the United States. HBO clearly is not doing that here. It is using the original UK title, which is a small but meaningful signal that the series wants to align itself more directly with Rowling's original text than with the regional branding logic of the first film rollout. That may seem tiny. It is not. Tiny choices tell you how an adaptation sees itself, and a title choice like that says this version wants to feel definitive in a literary sense, not just commercially recognizable in an American one. Then there is the cast, which is obviously where people were always going to get the loudest and most emotional reactions. Dominic McLaughlin, Arabella Stanton, and Alastair Stout are now the faces of Harry, Hermione, and Ron, and the teaser knows it has to sell that trio first. It does not need to prove they are better than Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. That would be a stupid battle. What it needs to do is convince people that this new trio can carry their own version of first-year wonder, awkwardness, friendship, and danger. Based on the first teaser, I think HBO understands that and is wisely selling chemistry over mimicry. The adult cast helps anchor the whole thing instantly. John Lithgow as Dumbledore, Nick Frost as Hagrid, John McTeer as McGonagall, and Paapa Essiedu as Snape make it very clear that HBO is not trying to go cheap, safe, or anonymous with this adaptation. These are actors with enough gravity to avoid feeling like cosplay replacements. That does not mean every choice will be embraced without argument. Paapa Essiedu's Snape casting has already generated ugly backlash in some corners of fandom. enough that HBO reportedly increased security and preparedness around the production. But in pure dramatic terms, these choices tell me the show is aiming for personality and authority, not hollow resemblance. That is a healthier approach, because if this series survives, it will survive by being its own thing, not by asking permission from nostalgia. And nostalgia, make no mistake, is the giant dragon sitting over this whole production. The original Philosopher Stone film arrived in November 2001 and became an instant cultural earthquake. It launched 3 young stars, locked in the visual language of Hogwarts for a generation, and created a cinematic memory so strong that almost every new image in this teaser is going to be judged against it, whether HBO likes it or not. That is unavoidable. But what is interesting is that the teaser does not feel scared of that comparison. It feels aware of it. It seems to understand that the audience already knows the old movie by heart. So the goal is not to dodge familiarity. The goal is to redirect it. Use it, then widen it. That is where television can actually win. Movies gave Harry Potter scale and immediacy. Television can give it accumulation. And for the first book especially, that could make a real difference. The appeal of Philosopher Stone is not just the destination point everyone remembers. It is the layering, the strange details of the castle, the quiet weirdness of classes, the social hierarchies, the little humiliations, the seasonal mood shifts, the way danger creeps in around ordinary school life instead of replacing it. If HBO really uses 8 episodes to deepen that texture, then the adaptation immediately justifies itself in a way the movies never needed to. That is the lane and the teaser. To its credit, seems to know it. It also helps that Francesca Gardner is running the show and Mark Mylod is directing, because those names suggest HBO is treating this as television first, not just as an extended movie chopped into pieces. Gardner has the serialized writing background. Mylod has the prestige TV control and visual discipline, and together they make more sense for long-form Harry Potter than a purely film-minded creative setup would. If this thing works, it is going to work because it understands pacing differently from the movies. There is also a much bigger industry angle here. Warner Brothers Discovery is stacking 2026 like a franchise pressure test. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, House of the Dragon Season 3, Dune, Prophecy. And now Harry Potter on Christmas means HBO is basically spending the year proving that old IP can still dominate when it is handled with enough scale and enough care. Harry Potter is obviously the most radioactive and potentially rewarding of the bunch. If this series hits, it is not just another successful adaptation. It becomes a decade-long strategic pillar. HBO has already confirmed that the long-term plan is to adapt all 7 books across roughly 10 years, and writing on Season 2 is already underway. That is a huge commitment, and it is why this teaser matters beyond just fan reaction videos and side-by-side screenshot comparisons. This is not a pilot season curiosity. This is infrastructure. So where do I land on this first look? I think the teaser does exactly what it needed to do. It does not try to blow the doors off the internet with reinvention. That would have been the wrong move. Instead, it reassures people that the emotional map is still there, then quietly suggests that the route through it might be longer, richer, and a little more book accurate than before. That is smart. That is sustainable. And it is probably the only way this show has a real future, because Harry Potter does not need to be bigger than the films. It needs to be deeper than the films. That is the challenge. And based on this first teaser, HBO at least appears to understand it. So now, I want to know what you think. Does this first look make HBO's Harry Potter feel like a genuinely worthwhile second adaptation? Or does it still feel too trapped in the shadow of the original movies to justify itself yet? And one more thing. Do you think using Philosopher's Stone instead of Sorcerer's Stone is a small naming detail, or the clearest signal yet that HBO wants this version to lean harder into the books than the films ever could? That is the real magic trick here, and Christmas 2026 just got a lot more crowded. I single quote, I'll see you in the next one.